Well, thanks so much, Belinda, for giving me a platform here to talk just a little bit about my recent trip to Uganda, and give the background of what's motivated me to now launch off into this adventurous apologetics thing. Let me just say that you guys are getting a preview, so I am not quite ready for prime time for adventurous apologetics, but I will be very soon. So if you start seeing some social media posts crossing your feeds, if you start getting maybe an email from me asking if you want to click here to subscribe or whatever, and it has to do with adventurous apologetics, you know where that's coming from. It's legit. And of course, I promise not to barrage you with spam. So hopefully in my short little presentation here, I'll give you sort of that preview, and you'll understand more why I'm motivated to do this. And I've been involved with apologetics ever since I became a Christian late in life at the age of 33, thanks to the prayers of my beautiful wife and her family and her insistence that I come and join her and sit in the back row of church. So that was in 1997, and I've been pursuing sort of the why behind the what of what we believe ever since. And a lot of that has been in association with Reasons to Believe. And they were very instrumental in my early walk, opening my eyes to the truth that could be known about God through what he has made. So I'm deeply indebted to the entire team at RTB. And as a result of that, I've been involved with the local Portland chapter for many years. And in conjunction with Gary for a long time. Gary was instrumental. By the way, just a little shout out to Gary. He was one of those like enigmas in my atheist life, saying, how come this amazingly smart young optical engineer is also a Christian? How can that even work? So he befuddled me for quite some time, and just that he was able to.
Thanks for not just writing me off as weird.
Well, yeah, well, you were weird in my mind, and but you did represent a data point out there of, hey, here's a really smart engineer type who knows the sciences, and yet he's still a Christian. And so you modeled for me what I later came to see as like, wow, he was actually right. So that being said, yeah, Gary and I have been partners in Reasons to Believe since I can't remember how long. And then we got to meet we got to meet Belinda, and she's then grown at a rocket speed, and now she's the president. So thank you, Belinda, for running it. And then in the course of all this, of course, we met Derry. I actually met Derry because she and I were classmates of sorts through the Biola Master's program. But then her work at Ratio Christi definitely intersects our work with Reasons to Believe, and we've been able to partner on a lot of things. So, and then, of course, Dennis is our trusty science news, what do you call it, watchman. So he is just always bringing so many amazing things from the science news front and making us aware of that. So all that to say, I'm very grateful for the RTB team and partners like Ratio Christi. So in my walk, one of the things that the Lord steered me towards for completely separate reasons was a trip to Uganda in 2017. And there in Uganda, I discovered that even in the middle of nowhere in developing nations, there is a hunger and need for apologetics. And so I was privileged to be able to take that and run with it and return a year later in 2018 and do actually a series of apologetics workshops across East Africa, which was the prototype of things to come. I was able to return in 2019, this time with somebody you guys might know, Greg Kokel from the Stand to Reasons team. And he and I went to Ishaka, Uganda, and we did a series of apologetics trainings there. 2020 kind of ground to the halt because of COVID, especially with travel. But 2021, I just got back from a 2-week trip to Uganda, specifically on apologetics there. And so through all that, I've decided to really focus on this idea of taking apologetics on mission. And I think it's something that the body of Christ needs. It needs desperately. And it's an amazing opportunity for us who are in this kind of rarefied world of, talking about not just the what of Christian truth, but really why is it true? And the opportunity we have to take that message on mission to communities that desperately need this is so real and so present that I said, you know what, we need a ministry that is the catalyst to make that happen. And that's really what Adventurous Apologetics is all about. So I'm going to just share just a short little, I'm going to share my screen here. And I'm going to give you just a little presentation on Adventurous Apologetics, just in general, and then specifically what an adventure with us looks like in the context of this trip that I just got back from. So just wave your hand if you can see my shared screen. Can you see that? Okay, good. All right, so this is Adventurous Apologetics. By the way, this is something that I am doing with full visibility with the executive team at Reasons to Believe. So I've shared this presentation or a similar one with Hugh Ross, Kathy Ross, Fuzz Rana, with Brian, with the whole team there, really encouraging some level of partnership with them. So I'm in no way like abandoning RTB. What Adventurous Apologetics will do will be a bridge between those communities that don't know that Reasons to Believe exists and connecting them with such a great ministry to turn to for their science apologetics questions. So, so stay tuned for how opportunities might open up for, informal kind of partnerships with Adventurous Apologetics as I pursue that. I'm not leaving, I'm not abandoning Reasons to Believe. So what is Adventurous Apologetics? Well, in a nutshell, we're inviting you to join us on a team with adventurous Christians, and we go on apologetics missions. We equip and guide people to be able to go and create networks with emerging leaders and influencers in those communities. And we want to equip them with the why behind the what of Christian truth. And so really our invitation is, hey, let's break the ivory tower mold of apologetics, the stuffy, argumentative, it's all academic. It's like all we do is sit around and argue. No, we want to break that mold. And we really want to take the message that apologetics has to give in bolstering our evangelistic efforts, and we want to take that to the world. So these adventures can be as close as PSU. Derry can testify that it's quite an adventure to take apologetics to Portland State University. It's a different kind of adventure than going to Uganda, but it's an adventure nonetheless. And so I think this theme of turning our conversations about the why truth behind the what of Christianity needs to be framed in this adventurous spirit. So trying to distill everything down to the bare minimum, here's our mission, vision, and method. So our mission is that we guide and equip adventurous Christians on apologetics missions, empowering emerging leaders with the why behind the what, to create self-sustaining apologetics communities around the world. And our vision there is to create these vibrant and self-sustaining apologetics communities that are defending the Christian faith in every nation and in every language. Pretty lofty vision there, but we want to do our part through these missions that go and help the emerging leaders and influencers in their communities. So the method we use is we are catalytic. So we're not a new apologetics ministry with a bunch of answers. There are plenty of wonderful ministries out there already, but what we need is we need to bring visibility of what's out there to communities that need it. And so we want to be the catalyst that bridge those two gaps. We also want to be the catalyst to take, people that are passionate about apologetics, like those of you who are on the Zoom call, and maybe those of you who are listening to the recording, to say, it's quite an adventure just to be part of a chapter and come together and discuss things. But man, imagine taking it on mission. Let's and Belinda's going to lead us on some practice stuff that really better equips us to put this into practice. But let's take it on the road, and on the road can be just down the street to a local community college, or it can be all the way around the world. But let's go. So we want to catalyze those things. We want to equip the leaders in those communities. We want to build relationships that are the key thing that makes for a lasting, sustainable community of apologetics wherever we go. And then those communities, we want to empower them to be able to stand on their own and to continue the work that we start with them. So that's basically the idea. So let me give you a couple examples of the things that we do. So, what do we do when we go on adventure? We do this. First and foremost, we do seminars. So we'll do sort of a traditional short-term, like long weekend or week-long or even 2-week intense apologetics training, just to get people equipped with the 101s of apologetics. So we'll do those seminars. We will catalyze and be the instigator of creating conferences that are the means to bring people together, to bring like-minded people together, particularly the leaders of ministries that are already doing something in the realm of apologetics. We want to bring them together and be able to raise awareness of what they're doing, amplify their efforts, and use those as launch pads to create more sustained activity after the events. Number 3, and this is a really important part, is we want to build pillars. When Paul came back to Jerusalem, what did he do? He sought out Peter, James, and John because they seemed to be pillars in the Christian community there in Jerusalem. They were the leaders. They were the go-to leaders. Where are the go-to leaders in Uganda? Where are they in Asia? Where are they in Eastern Europe? We need to build pillars, individuals who are equipped and qualified to become like the center of gravity for the activities that are going to surround those communities. And that means, equipping them with certificates of some sort, getting some of them through some kind of degree program, and then mentoring them, coming alongside them and helping them just in their daily life as leaders in apologetics. So we want to build up those pillars in those communities. And it all starts with relationship. So number 4 is, in order to do this effectively, the world has changed. We are now a digitally connected world more so than ever before. And what we're doing right now is a prime example of that. We're all joining from the comfort of our home. We have a Zoom link, and boy, here we are meeting together. That's a privilege that we take for granted, but not all of the world has the ability to do that. So they are missing some key technology to be able to do what we're doing right now. So, so as a strategic part of what we do on these adventures is we actually bring technology to those communities so that they can set up and have an effective remote video experience like we are in their communities. So that means, and I just got back, that was one of the things that I did. I was able to bring in my luggage 3 of these kits, which are basically all self-contained laptop, good camera, good audio, good lighting, a decent sized monitor, all set up so that it will allow, say, a group of 6 to 8 leaders to huddle together on a Zoom call that connects them both within their local communities, but also with the international partners like us, so we can sustain the effort that we start when we actually go physically there. So this provides the path for training. It provides the path for planning of events, for mentoring, and it's just, you know, I like to think of it as more so than ever, you know, in Paul's day, you know, when he was sent to be the preacher of the gospel to the Gentiles, guess what? He used the Roman roads. And thank God for those Roman roads. You know, they were the thing that allowed the Romans to, you know, to dominate the world, but they were also the thing that allowed Paul to go and preach the gospel to the ends of the earth, as far as the world was at his time. And likewise, our ability, thanks to technology like this, to be able to collaborate across geographical distance is phenomenal. And it is the modern day Roman road for us to use as the church. And so I think we need to be ahead of the curve on this, and we need to be able to use it. And it's strategic enough for us that that's part of our mission, is bringing technology to the communities that we meet and giving them the tools that they need to continue the work long after we come back. So then last but not least, and it's covered up on my screen with all your pretty faces, but we want this to always be a fun, adventurous experience. And part of that is taking people who go on expeditions. And by that, we mean doing sort of side trips that really add to our whole apologetics mission by giving us personal, tangible experiences that allow us to touch and feel the very, you know, reasons that we are developing, the very answers that we're developing. And so we want to take people on archaeological, historical, and scientific kind of side trips that are, you know, they're above and beyond, like, you know, typically if you go on a short-term mission, you might go on a safari, you know, which is great. I love safaris, and you go and see the beautiful creatures and whatnot. But these expeditions are going to be like that in spirit, but way more intentional. So if we go on a safari, we will go because we want to connect directly those amazing designs, the beauty that we see, the ecosystems that God has just amazingly designed. We want to connect that directly to our apologetics so that we have personal testimonies that we can refer to and really build our foundation so we're stronger in our testimony, and give people tangible stories that they can relate to and get them excited. So so that's the fifth part of what we're doing. So that's the essence of Adventurous Apologetics. And like I say, you're getting an early preview. So hopefully you'll start seeing more through your various channels that you get information from. And throughout the end of this, or towards the end of this year, you'll start seeing a lot more presence of us. And then, you know, our real launch is coming in 2022. So now I just want to, and I'm sorry I'm going pretty quickly. I don't want to rob all the time here, but I'm going to give you a quick fly through on my recent trip my adventure to Uganda. And this is, again, the fourth time I've been there, the third time that I've really been there with a focus on raising apologetics in the communities there that I intersect with. So, okay, so here's my Uganda 2021 scouting adventure. So I went by myself because travel is still a little bit dicey. It's much easier to travel solo than it is to bring a team. Although my experience there showed me that travel is now possible. So I would have no challenges bringing a small team next time. So where the heck is Uganda? Well, you can see Uganda over there. It's in really the heart of Africa. It's called the Pearl of Africa. And it's at the headwaters of the Nile. And it's surrounded by such other countries as Kenya, South Sudan, the Congo, Tanzania. And so it's right on the equator as well. So it's very strategic. Lots of people come to Uganda from these surrounding countries to get educated, to do business, to do ministry. So you hear a lot of people going to Uganda, and that's why. It's because it's so centrally located in the heart of East Africa. What were my objectives on this trip? Number one, it was to solidify relationships that we hadn't been physically there for 2 years because of COVID. So that was like, honestly, number one, is just going and, hugging the people, and hanging out with them. So, solidifying the historic relationships that we've had, and then, seeing people for the first time, face to face, some of the people that I had only met on Zoom. So number two is from an apologetic standpoint, I was there to listen to the local leaders. I wanted to hear what they were doing, what their primary challenges were in growing apologetics in Africa, and what their future plans were. And then how could somebody like me with a ministry like Adventurous Apologetics, how can we come alongside them and help them in what they've been called to do in their local communities? So I was there to listen. And at the same time, I vision cast what the Lord has led me to do here with Adventurous Apologetics. And again, with the primary goal is to make that connection between people like you who are already in the apologetics world. You have so much to offer. How can we come alongside our brothers and sisters in developing communities that are still establishing apologetics in their spaces? How can we come alongside and help them? And how can Adventurous Apologetics be a bridge and a catalyst to make that happen? So that was the primary, conversations between listening to what they were doing, their needs, and casting the vision of how we could come alongside and help, and how a ministry like Adventurous Apologetics could be that catalyst. So then finally, we actually developed some plans on the basis of that. So we are in, with about 4 or 5 different ministries in Uganda and East Africa right now. I'm in the planning stages of what's the next step, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So those were the main objectives. So I'm just going to show you some pictures, because I think pictures really speak 1,000 words, and I'll kind of narrate behind the pictures here in a minute. So here's a whole collage just showing you, the range of activity that I did. I was there for 2 weeks, and just a little bit more context. So, my background for the last 5 years and my intersection with Africa in general has been through a ministry that I'm on staff with called Eternal Impact. And Eternal Impact is a 25-year-old ministry, and they've been going to Uganda for many years. So in 2017, when I first joined Eternal Impact, that was my experience of going to Uganda, which opened up my eyes to the need and the opportunity for apologetics there. So I'm still with Eternal Impact, and in fact, they are my mother ministry, which is really providing the infrastructure for me to launch Adventurous Apologetics from. So half of my trip was related to Eternal Impact business. The other half was related to apologetics. And that's what I'm showing you now. So lots of pretty pictures. Let me elaborate here on some of them. So these two gentlemen that you see here are actually from North Sudan. They are recent graduates from Africa Renewal University, which we have good relationships with. They were participants in 2018 of the apologetics seminar that I hosted at Africa Renewal University. And the gentleman in the middle there, who looks really serious, he tracked me down about 6 months ago, sent me an email out of the blue saying, hey, I think you're the guy that came to Uganda and spoke about apologetics. I said, yep, I'm the guy. He said, I'm from North Sudan, and I'm here finishing up my schooling in Uganda, and I'm heading back to Sudan. Can you come and do apologetics in North Sudan? And I said, someday maybe. And if it's not me, it'll be somebody else. But guess what? I'm doing this thing you'd be interested in. Let's meet, if at all possible. So through the miracle of being able to converse like this, I was able to develop a relationship with him. And lo and behold, the very day I landed in Uganda, all jet lagged and whatnot, he was able to come and meet with me at my hotel. And so we had a couple hours together. I got to hear their heart. And oh my gosh, when you hear the testimony of these gentlemen, you are like, you are moved to want to really be on fire for the Lord. Because if they can do what they're doing, man, we need to be with them. So they live in a region in North Sudan surrounded by Muslims. On one side, they have the challenges of Darfur. You remember Darfur in the news. There are a unique community of Christians living in the Nuba Mountains. And, it's about as far out in the middle of nowhere as you can get. But these guys are saying, oh my gosh, we need the why behind the what. We're out there preaching the gospel, but everybody's asking us, well, why is it true? Why isn't it Islam true? And they need answers. And, they're doing their best, but they need help. So they represent the type of community that is desperate to be connected with somebody that can help them in their quest to have the why behind the what. So I'm not ready at all to go to North Sudan. Don't worry. And especially my wife's probably listening. She's going, no, don't go to North Sudan. But someday somebody will. And I want to make that happen sooner rather than later, because these guys are ready now. And they have technology. So they're a good example of, if we can get a Bridge the Divide kit for them, we'd be able to get them on Zoom, and somebody in our community could take them under their wing, walk them through some apologetics 101 stuff, point them to some resources, get them trained, and that's how it starts. So these guys are a good example. This young man, oh my gosh, this is Jackson. He is a recent doctor graduate. So this guy is actually a doctor in Uganda. He is living at what we call the D house. He is taking care of about 8 orphans, including the one he is holding in his arms right now. That young lady was rescued out of a bag that was dumped in the pit of a toilet.
Oh.
Okay. This is life then. It's that little baby they discover, and this is pretty typical. Young girls will get pregnant. They won't know what to do. They can't get an abortion. They'll deliver the child. They'll put the child in a bag and dump them in a pit toilet because they know somebody's going to show up at a pit toilet and they're going to hear a baby crying. And so she was rescued and now she's doing really well. This guy, young man, doctor taking care of him, but his heart is passionate for apologetics and he wants to get a degree. He wants to share the experience that people like Derry and I got to go through the Biola thing. He is a medical doctor, so he is like, science is right up his alley. He knows biology, he knows chemistry, he knows all this stuff. He is well equipped, and he is a pillar and an influencer in the Ishaka community. So this is the kind of guy that's going to be a pillar, and I want to come alongside him and I want to help him. And I don't know if it means getting him a Reasons Institute certificate or getting him a PhD, through one of our universities or whatever, but we'll figure that out. And we'll start small and we'll grow him up. And, he needs a mentor. And so therein lies the opportunity. And he is primed, living in Ishaka. So this is in Ishaka, which is in Western Uganda. He lives in a community of a university town that is raising up doctors, nurses, pharmacists, chemists, business people who come to this university from all over Africa. Remember, I showed you the map where Uganda is in the heart. Well, students come from all over Africa. They spend a couple years there getting educated. And, many of them, probably about 400 of them, are members at a really energetic church there called Ishaka Community Church. And that's where I've had the privilege of speaking with these students who are really hungry for apologetics. And so we need to get this guy up and running. We need to get him to start a chapter of something. Ideally, I talked to Derry yesterday, but ideally Ratio Christi. And Ratio Christi brings so many different ministries together, but it could be Reasons to Believe as well. And it's too early right now, but I can imagine in just a couple years, they would be ready to have a chapter of some sort that really provides the kind of structure around which they continue to grow. All right, so that's Jackson. I better move a little bit quicker here. Sorry, I'm taking so much time. This was actually 2019, but there you can see me with Greg Kokel. This is the team in Ishaka. We're outside of the science building, as you can see, of the university. And these are the kids that are going to be the next generation leaders in Africa. So think about getting each one of these guys and gals through some apologetics training that they would get if there was a Ratio Christi chapter, if there was a Reasons to Believe, if there was Reasonable Faith, if some of us would go there and do short-term missions, if we would invite them to a conference where they could have visibility to, wow, all the exciting stuff that's actually happening in apologetics in Africa. And so that's the opportunity. And this is just a little peek at what is needed and what we're called, I believe, to somehow reach out and help these students. And you see this picture, and what you need to realize is that each one of these students, this is the cream of the crop in Africa. These guys know they're just as smart as your PSU students in the STEM stuff, right? They've had to do that to get to where they are. So talk about a harvest field for the type of apologetics, specifically that Reasons to Believe does. And they are, Africa has different needs than we do here, but for the younger generation and the next generation, it's all a level playing field because each one of them has a cell phone and they are connected and they are getting Western culture, by the torrent. And so their questions are the same as our questions. So it's a global effort anymore. The older generation are dealing with other things, but the emerging generation might as well be at PSU, honestly. So I think that's encouraging because it means that our relevance transcends our geographic borders in terms of apologetics. The body of Christ is unified, and the younger people, they need the why answers desperately. Otherwise, they're going to walk away from the what because they won't know why it's true. Okay, here's a great picture. It captures a lot. So this is a partner ministry. This is ACFAR, the African Center for Apologetics Research. They are probably the most vibrant on-the-ground working ministry in Uganda. They specialize in counter-cult apologetics. They have very little in the means of evidential, classical, or scientific apologetics. It's mostly they are going up against the false religions that surround the church in Uganda. The bearded gentleman there is Paul Carden, and he leads the entire ministry, which is a global international ministry. This is the Africa part of it. You can see some equipment dangling there. That's part of the Bridge the Divide equipment that I delivered to them. So they were one of the recipients. These guys are the key partners that I'm working with on the ground for what's next for East Africa apologetics. And you can see our whiteboard there. I won't share details, but there's some concrete plans going forward. And we're not all sleeping, we're actually praying, and I just wanted to capture the intense prayer there. Okay. But these guys represent the tip of the spear that I've partnered with in the past, and they're like so willing for us as the Western community of apologists to come alongside them and support them in the areas that they don't cover. So they're really good and expert, way better than we are at counter cult things, especially some of the false like prosperity gospel things and whatnot that are being, that are so rampant in Africa. But they really need partners to be able to fill in the gaps, and we can be that. So this guy here, this is Raymond. So you guys remember a ministry called RZIM. RZIM did wonderful work. Sadly, for circumstances we won't go into, it's no longer a ministry. This guy, Raymond, used to be an RZIM guy, and he had a team in Uganda, and he did RZIM stuff all over East Africa. And so he is already a pillar in that community. And as you can imagine, with all the RZIM people, they're trying to figure out what's next. So my plan is to snatch them up as quick as I can and engage them to say, hey, guess what? We want to bring a team, and we want you desperately to be, one of the speakers at a seminar, at a conference, at a whatever. So that's Raymond there. The lady there, incidentally, is Barbara. She is really an interesting lady. She's been on the ground in Uganda for about 5 years, and she kind of knows everybody. So she's been super helpful for me just in connecting, making relationships, and doing kind of the background stuff to make meetings happen. So she is a great resource in networking. These young men, okay, the guy with the Gordon Conwell shirt, well, he just graduated with an MDiv from Gordon Conwell, so he is theologically all up to speed. And he started a ministry called Veracity Fount, and he's built what for East Africa is amazing. You can see the bookshelf behind us. He has one of the best libraries that I've ever seen in Uganda. So this is one of about 5 bookshelves. And that top row, as far as you can see, are all apologetics. So, oh my gosh, amazing. Now, what's lacking in his apologetics library is he has 1 book from RTB. It happens to be The Fingerprint of God, which was very handy for me because that was a very instrumental book for me. But he needs books. So when we talk about, what can we do? We can bring them books and we can fill their library with science apologetics stuff. He is also already a pillar, and he has facilities to do online training. He's already doing a podcast, and so he's a great example of a disciple maker that is already doing stuff, and the opportunity is for us to come alongside him and help him in the efforts that he's already doing. And that's what I love to see. Let's feed this guy and let's help his disciples grow as much as they can. Let's see, this young man here. Let's see, is that the next one? Hang on a sec. Yeah, this young man here. Okay, so when I was down at RTB headquarters, first presenting to them Adventurous Apologetics, I got an email back from Samuel, who coordinates the Reasons Institute thing, and he says, "Hey, you know what? We got a student from Uganda you might want to meet." So he gave me his contact name. I got in touch with him. I Zoomed with Joseph here. You can see Joseph and his wife Veronica. And he's like, "Oh, I'm pursuing my MDiv here at a local seminary, but I'm really interested in science apologetics, and I want to take the Reasons Institute classes. So, but I can't afford them." So I said, "You know what? I'll work with you." And so Adventurous Apologetics got behind him, funded his first class, said, "Hey, take a class, see how it goes, and make sure you pass." And so he recently completed that, and he's ready to go for the next class. And so, I want to adopt this guy into, our chapter, and I want to help him to get through all the way through the advanced certificate level so that he's got some credentials. Now, long term, he would love to pursue, a higher academic degree. He already has a bachelor's degree in theology. But he's again an example of a pillar that we want to come alongside and equip. I brought him a pile of books, and so he was delighted with that. So that was that. So just in summary, I won't go over this long list of the people and organizations that I touched in one form or another during my trip. Here's the opportunities that are front and center. So there's an opportunity for a leaders summit to really try and answer the question of what's next in East Africa and how does the international community come alongside those leaders and help. We've got at least 4 pillars in the works, ready to go, to be trained and equipped to be centers of gravity in the emerging communities that surround them. Ishaka Community Church, for me personally, is like a platform that is a gift from God. And I want to see a pillar being built up there, specifically Jackson and Moses. And I want to see them create a chapter of one of these ministries, if not their own. I really would prefer it to be an existing ministry with backbone behind it. So if for some of you, I start knocking at your door and saying, "Hey, do you want to be part of helping Ishaka Community Church, their community on the campus of Kampala International, if you want to help them, realize this vision, then talk to me." and let's make it happen. Veracity Fount, that was the young man, the Gordon Conwell guy with the bookshelf. I mean, he's ready to go. So if somebody wanted to take it on themselves to teach a 15-week course on Apologetics 101, he's ready. And he would get together 10 really great students and bring them together for an evening a week or something, and they'd be off and running. And there are multiple locations between churches, organizations that are already doing stuff, and universities. There are multiple locations that are ready for short-term equipping missions, where it would be in the context of like a 3-day kind of seminar. So those are the opportunities. My invitation to you guys, both who are on live and who might watch this as a recording, like I said earlier, I'm not ready for prime time, but I am ready to engage. So there's my email. Join this adventure. Send me an email. Just say, hey, Ben, I heard your thing. I'm interested. And I'll get in touch with you. And as I start having a website to point you to, videos to point you to, opportunities to consider going on an adventure or being part of sending an adventure, you can do that. Or there's my phone number. Just text me adventure so I know what it's about, and 503-522-3741, and I will get back to you similarly. So, so thanks a lot. Belinda, thank you for giving me the platform. Sorry, I went pretty long, but I hope you can tell, you know, I came back from a very exhausting trip, but I came back even more energized, more affirmed that a ministry like Adventurous Apologetics, and I hope others do similar type of ministries, need to happen. We as the body of Christ, particularly those of us who have a passion and are equipped with the why part of the whole project, we need to get out there, both here locally, like our chapter is doing and like Belinda is going to talk to us about, but we need to take it you know, to the ends of the earth. So so let's see that as an amazing opportunity, an amazing adventure that is, I think, a gift from God for us to do. So, all right, that's all.